Our film begins in an old house recently purchased by a family. Kira, the mother, is happy about finally moving in, unlike her daughter Ellie, who can't stand the house because it looks old and hideous. Kira tries to cheer her up by showing her different parts of the house, but Ellie remains upset and mocks the old paintings on the wall. Her brother, Steve, is just happy he'll have his own room. Ellie goes towards the basement, where her father, Brian, is showing it to her. After he leaves, the door closes behind her, and she gets trapped. Terrified, she yells for them to get her out immediately. They all try to open the door, but the doorknob is stuck. Brian uses a key he finds nearby and opens the basement door. Ellie is terrified and runs straight to her room. Kira goes to her and asks her to watch her little brother for the night because they need to go to work for something urgent and will be back soon. Ellie feels annoyed that she's forced to stay alone in the house on her first night. Night falls, and Ellie is alone with her brother, who tries to scare her by appearing in a strange mask shaped like a sheep's skull. After she scolds him, she asks where he found the mask. He shows her a hidden closet inside a wall containing strange items. He tells her that its owner said the house was once owned by a witch who made a pact with the devil. Inside the closet, they find a gramophone. They take it out to play the record that's with it. A person's voice speaks in riddles and incomprehensible things and recites a mathematical equation. Ellie turns off the gramophone and tells her brother to go to sleep immediately. She watches TV until her parents get home from work. Suddenly, the power goes out in the entire house. She calls her mother, telling her the power is out and that she's very scared of the house and wants to leave. Kira tries to calm her down, telling her she needs to go down to the main electrical panel in the basement to flip the circuit breaker back on. She says that if her brother Steve wakes up and finds the room dark, he'll be terrified and cry. She reassures her that the basement stairs are only 10 steps. Ellie goes down the basement stairs while on the phone with her mother, counting the steps to distract herself from her fear. However, Ellie continues counting past 10, up to 30 and more, until the line cuts out. Kira gets worried, and she and her husband rush home to check on their daughter. They go straight to the basement and flip the circuit breaker. Ellie is not in the basement or anywhere in the house. They call the police after searching around the house and not finding her. The police tell them that teenager disappearances are common and most reappear after a short time, usually staying with friends. They search for her in the nearby forest, and Kira distributes flyers about her disappearance. Later, she goes to the station to ask if they found anything. The detective informs her that they've questioned all her friends and checked all the cameras at bus and train stations, but there is no trace of her. They also checked her social media and found she was being severely bullied by many of her classmates, with the detective implying she may have committed suicide. Kira returns home and asks her son if they did anything together on the night of her disappearance. He tells her they played the gramophone behind her, and that was the last thing they did together. Kira takes a UV flashlight to the basement, convinced that something bad happened to her daughter there. She finds that the basement steps are numbered, but doesn't understand why. Written on the floor is a strange message, like a mathematical equation. She continues searching the basement with the UV light and finds terrifying drawings of scary figures. She reports this to the police. The detective tells her the drawings are ordinary and anyone could have drawn them. He asks if they know anything about the house's history. Brian says he bought the house at an auction, and the owner wanted to sell it quickly to cover nursing home expenses. The detective's visit ends, and he tells them he'll inform them immediately if anything new comes up. Kira feels guilty about what happened to her daughter because she was the one who sent her to the basement. Unable to sleep, she sits in her bathroom and calls her daughter's phone just to hear her voice on the voicemail. Suddenly, she hears her daughter's voice counting the basement steps again. The sound is coming from the house's pipes, which end in the basement. Kira goes to find the source of the sound. Before she turns on the basement light, she feels small balls under her feet and accidentally kicks one. It rolls down the stairs, and Kira keeps hearing the sound as if the ball is falling down an endless flight of stairs. She stays up all night trying to figure out the meaning of the equation on the floor and the symbols above each door in the house, but she finds nothing that helps her with her daughter's disappearance. She calls the auctioneer from whom she bought the house and learns it belonged to the daughter of a famous academic doctor. He promises to get her more information, as their dealings were only with the owner's lawyer. Kira photographs all the symbols on the doors and shows them to a colleague at work, hoping she might know their meaning. Indeed, her colleague tells her they are Hebrew symbols. Each symbol alone is meaningless, but when combined, they form a word referring to a type of sea creature in Jewish mythology. Kira goes home to read more about this creature. She then thinks of playing the gramophone to listen to the record. At that moment, Steve is in his room playing when he suddenly gets up and starts counting. He walks towards the closet in the wall, and its door opens by itself. Kira hears him counting and rushes to ask him why he's doing it. Steve seems to snap out of a trance, not realizing what he was doing, and tells her he was just playing. Kira sits at her desk and types the name of the house's owner, which is on a hanging plaque, into Google. She finds a news story about an entire family disappearing without a trace. She continues searching for anything related to the house until nightfall. Suddenly, the power goes out again, and she hears her son's voice calling for her. He's trapped in the basement and can't open the door. She tries to open the door for him but can't, and the key is gone from its place. Where the key should be, she sees a strange figure looking at her. Her son then appears behind her, asking what she's doing and who she's talking to in the basement when no one is inside. Suddenly, the door opens by itself. She enters to see if anyone is in the basement, and the door closes behind her again. She tries to open it from her side while her son tries from the other. She hears a sound coming from the basement and tries to find its source, but her phone falls and disappears. She feels someone approaching and calls for her son to open the door quickly. Brian comes home from work, runs to the door, manages to open it, and gets Kira out. After Steve is asleep, Brian wants to know what happened to her. She tells him she was trapped in the basement just like Ellie was when they first moved in, and that her phone fell and disappeared. She's sure something strange is happening in the house. She also found out that the family who owned the house before them all disappeared, except for their daughter, and now her own daughter has vanished just like that family. She insists there's a secret in the basement, but Brian doesn't believe her because her story is unbelievable. He goes down to the basement to look for her phone and finds a clump of hair on the floor. He feels a movement behind him, but when he looks, nothing is there. The next day, Kira goes to the National College of Mathematics, where Dr. John, the former owner of the house, worked. She asks for his colleague, Dr. Remy, who now occupies his old office. When she meets him, she gives him the equation that was carved on the floor to find out its meaning. She also asks if he knows anything about John. He tells her she must have bought the house from John's daughter, Rose, as she is the only one left after her entire family disappeared. He says Rose has probably not yet recovered from what she's been through. Remy explains that the equation is very complex and difficult to solve because it refers to a hidden dimension that is acknowledged in reality but not well defined. He can't determine if it's a single dimension or many. He asks her to leave the equation with him and promises to call her when he solves it. Kira returns home and finds her son playing with his drone. When she puts her SIM card into a new phone, she sees that Remy has called her many times. She calls him back. He asks why she answered his call by just counting numbers and then hanging up. She tells her her phone has been lost and her line wasn't working. He understands that her equation is incomplete and he can't help her. All he could find was that a similar equation was carved in a house in Belgium where a whole family also disappeared without a trace. Kira tries to explain what she's found to her husband, but he thinks she's gone crazy because her words are incoherent. While they are talking, Steve is alone in his room and hears a sound coming from the closet. He sees Ellie in front of him with a disfigured face. He screams. When his parents come to him, he tells them he saw Ellie in the closet. Brian goes in to check and finds the closet empty, but he finds his daughter's phone on the floor. At that moment, he finally believes his wife's story. They decide they must find Rose, the daughter of the house's former owner. Kira finds the address of the nursing home where she lives and goes to meet her. She tells her everything that happened to her family. Kira tells Rose the name of the sea creature that is formed when all the symbols in the house are combined. Rose tells her the name refers to one of the 7 princes of hell, and that her father summoned him to their world in the hopes of curing her sick brother, but something went wrong and they all disappeared. She explains that hell is not in the basement, but in the entire house. Kira rushes home to check on her husband and son. She finds that Brian has managed to solve the puzzle of the symbols and that they refer to a guardian of hell. She understands that John had turned the entire house into a gateway to hell to communicate with the devil. Meanwhile, Steve is playing with his drone, loses control of it, and finds it heading towards the basement. It lands on the basement floor. He goes down to get it and feels someone standing next to him. Suddenly he screams, and the basement door slams shut. Kira and Brian run down to look for him, but find he has vanished from the house. They try to focus until they